Hello, this video is about addition property of equality. We have several properties that we can use in order to work with equations, because now we're going to look at equations, which means we're looking at ways to solve for a variable. So we want to figure out what is the value of some sort of variable at this point. So let's look at some examples. So the addition property of equality says that what I do to one side, I can do to the other in the form of addition. So if I add something to one side, I'm going to add something to the other side. So let's look at this first example. It's going to say solve for y. And so we have y minus 12 equals negative 10. And so we solve for y, it means we want to get something that says y equals, and we particularly want some sort of number at the other side. Now, what we have to do is get rid of the minus 12. So in order to do that, that means we're going to add something to that side in such a way that it would equal 0. So we want to take negative 12 plus something, and we want to get 0. So this is our dilemma. So when we think about it, what would that be? Well, if I add 12, so I don't even have to find a number, the number is there. So if it's minus 12, if I add 12, negative 12 plus 12 will give me 0. But because I have an equal sign means I have to do it to the other side in order to keep that equality, keep it balanced. So I'm going to do it to both sides. Now, let's simplify what we have at this point. So we have the y hanging out, but negative 12 plus 12 is 0. And then on the other side of the equal sign, we have negative 10 plus 12. So negative 10 plus 12 is 2. And again, anything plus 0 is itself. So y equals 2. And we've solved for y. We know what y is equal to. And then you can plug it back in and check your answer. If I have 2 minus 12, does that equal negative 10? Well, what is 2 minus 12? Negative 10 equals negative 10, and good to go. Next example, solve for n. All right, we have n plus 3.2 equals 9.6. All right, we want to get n by itself, but we have plus 3.2. So we could do a couple different things. If we wanted to look in terms of addition, we would have to add a negative number to the side to get 0. Or we could do the opposite of what's here and just subtract. So we can subtract 3.2, but remember that we can add a negative number means the same thing. So if I changed it to this and said add a negative number, we're going to get the same result. So 3.2 plus a negative 3.2 is our 0. And then we have 9.6 plus a negative 3.2. Now again, if you get stuck, you are welcome to use a calculator to be sure of yourself. Totally fine. But we get 6.4. And again, anything plus 0 is itself. So n equals 6.4. Next example, solve for x. X plus 1/2 equals 3/4. So works the same way. We have added 1/2, so we can add a negative 1/2 or subtract 1/2, either direction, whichever makes sense to you. So 1/2 minus 1/2 is 0. and then 3/4 minus 1/2. So at this point, we have to remind ourselves, how do I work with those fractions? 3/4 minus 1/2. I have to look at the denominator to determine what is our common denominator. In this case, it's 4. So this one, we have to say, how do I get from 4 to 4? It's already there, so that numerator stays the same. But how do I get from 2 to 4? Multiply by 2. 1 times 2 is 2. We keep the denominator the same, but we subtract the numerators. So 3 minus 2 is 1, so we get 1/4. And so x is equal to 1/4. Last example. This one's a little long. I'm going to go ahead and write it out because it wants you to translate the words. So it says the sum of negative 18 and a number is 11. What is the number? Well, first we need to figure out what is the equation that we're going to be working with in this case. So we need to translate what this means. So let's look at a little piece at a time. So it says the sum. Sum means I'm adding something. So what am I adding? Well, let's take a look. So it usually tells us afterwards. Sum of negative 18. So negative 18 and a number. So at that point we can give it any letter we want. It's some number x. And then it says is 11. So that one we know that is means equal to 11. So in this case, this would be our equation. Now, can I rewrite it? Because right now it looks a little strange to us. How do I go about solving this? You can rewrite it. However, it's totally fine the way it is. But I need to get x by itself in order to figure out what the number is. So I have a negative 18. In order to get rid of that, I'm going to add 18 to both sides. Because again, I'm looking to get a 0. Negative 18 plus 18 is 0. And the x is hanging out. And then we have 11 plus 18. 11 plus 18 is going to give us 29. And 0 plus x is x. So x equals 29. That's it for this video. As you work through the lesson, if you have any questions, make sure to ask your teacher. Have a great day.